Hi all, DT Neal here, talking to you about storytelling things, writerly perspectives, genre, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and the like. One thing I think about a fair amount with science fiction is the idea of the ever-expanding universe and how one of the tragedies of it from my romantic conception. And again, this is a long-term problem. We may not even still exist as a species by the time this happens. But there's that idea of in a constantly expanding universe, the stars themselves will start to fade from view. Like they will continue to expand to the point where they will just fade from view. We won't get to see them because they will have moved beyond that threshold of as visual light for us to see them. And that's sad because who doesn't like, well, at least if you're in an area without a lot of light pollution, who doesn't like to be able to look into a starry sky? And the idea of some future, again, huge if humanity's able to live long enough to that point, where they could theoretically look up into the sky wherever they are and see just fewer and fewer stars because they're just moving away. Everything's moving away, and that's sad. The idea of looking up into a darkening sky because those stars just one by one are just slipping away. They'd still be out there. They're just moving so far away that it as to be effectively invisible to us. That's a downer. I really do. That makes the universe seem even colder and more unwelcoming. And who knows what condition we'll be in as a species if we're even around to face that kind of the lifeless sky. It's sad. It is sad. The nature of the universe itself, as massive as it is, that idea of just one by one, in addition to everything moving away from itself, that over the passage of time, the stars will run out of, their fusion reactions will cease, and the stars will die, and that cycle of star birth, formation, will eventually begin to fade, and the entropy will rise and the energy will drop, and the universe will become this astoundingly empty space, even more empty than it already is, with fewer and fewer stars. And it's a real downer of an idea. The idea of a proliferation of black holes out there being the only active things out there, and even they slowly start to fade. That's all very nihilistic and very depressing when you think about it. But again, from a writer perspective, of course, one thinks about it. One can't help it. You can't help but think about these things. So, everything I've done earlier posts about how difficult space exploration is and logistically challenging it is. And so that even if we manage those huge lifts and travel somehow to other planets and develop colonial presences there, which is, again, a huge lift, there is the reality of just everything flowing away and everything getting out of reach, and that vast, vast void, and the deaths of those stars in this dimension. It's so dark. There's cosmic horror embedded in our celestial existence, and I don't know if people ever like to think about it. It's kind of like when people don't want to think about celestial scales. How Betelgeuse, for example, is like, if it were in the center of our solar system, it would go out to like Saturn. That's how big it is. It's just massive, and there are plenty of larger stars out there. Just these huge things out there, and massive black holes, and all these things. And the scale is daunting. The gap between things as they expand further outward, that's daunting. The inevitable long-term failure of fusion, because fusion doesn't last forever. It eventually burned out the hydrogen and burned out those elements sequentially, and that stars will die, and even black holes eventually will die. Red dwarfs, of course, before that, even red dwarfs, which have incredibly long lifespans, even they die. And I don't know. Philosophically, I think about that from a perspective of characters and stories and worlds, and think about beings out there in that massive void of space. And it's depressing, it's scary, it's cosmic horrific, it's all of those things. So, when you look up into the night sky, and if you're in an area that isn't light polluted, enjoy those stars while you can, because they're beautiful and they won't be here forever. Again, long time scale, but just enjoy those moments while you have them.